Ty Borden was gone. Everyone believed it. Amy had moved on, or at least tried to. But when season 19 begins, something doesn't feel right. There's a strange silence over the ranch, the kind that whispers secrets. And then, it happens. Amy hears a voice she hasn't heard in years, a voice she could never forget. It sounds like Ty. Is it a dream? A memory? Or has the impossible just become real? For longtime fans of Heartland, the death of Ty Borden in season 14 was more than just a sad moment in a TV show. It felt like losing a part of the family. Ty wasn't just Amy's husband. He was a symbol of healing, of growth, of everything Heartland stood for. We watched him come to the ranch as a troubled teenager, slowly finding his way through hard work, love, and connection with animals. He found his home. He found Amy. And for many years we believed nothing could break that bond. But then, tragedy struck. In a shocking twist, Ty died from a blood clot shortly after being shot, an event that changed the entire course of the show. Amy, who had always leaned on Ty's strength, was forced to face life alone with their daughter Lyndy. The show shifted from stories of partnership to stories of survival. We saw Amy fall, cry, and break, but also slowly rise again piece by piece. Seasons 14 to 18 focused on Amy's grief. Not the kind of dramatic grief you see in most shows, but the quiet kind, the kind that sneaks up in the middle of a conversation or in the silence of a morning ride. Amy buried herself in her work with horses, found support in her family, and tried to give Lyndy a life full of love even without her father. But Ty was always there in some way. In her memories, in old photos, in the way she looked out across the fields and waited for nothing in particular. Even though he was gone, his presence never really left. Fans had mixed feelings about the direction the show took after Ty's death. Some felt it lost its heart. Others admired the courage to tell a real story about grief. But whether you loved it or struggled with it, one thing remained clear. Ty's absence was the biggest shadow hanging over Heartland. No one really filled that space. And maybe that was the point. Some losses stay with us. Some people are irreplaceable. That's why the very idea of Ty returning alive is so powerful. It breaks the rules of what we thought we knew. It shakes the ground under everything we've seen since season 14. If Ty never died, then what was all that pain for? And if he truly did die, then who or what has come back? The season premiere doesn't give us all the answers at once. In fact, it starts slow, peaceful even. The ranch looks calm. The family seems settled. There's a feeling of routine. Amy is still raising Lyndy, working with horses and sharing moments with her daughter that feel light and full of hope. But something's different. It's not what's said, but what's felt. There's a quiet tension, a sense that something is about to happen, and no one knows what it is yet. Amy begins to notice little things. A photo of Ty falls from the shelf. She finds one of his old jackets where it shouldn't be. Lyndy says she dreamed of her dad and that he told her something important. These aren't huge moments. They're subtle, but enough to make Amy stop and wonder. She tries to brush it off. Maybe she's tired, maybe it's just emotion. After all, grief can play tricks on the mind even years later. But we, as the audience, know better. This is Heartland. Nothing happens by accident. By the time the episode reaches its midpoint, Amy walks out to the barn early one morning. Light is soft. Fog hangs over the grass. She hears something, footsteps maybe, or the soft sound of someone speaking. She calls out. No answer. She listens again, and that's when she hears it. A voice, calm, familiar, saying her name. Amy. That's all. One word, one name, but it stops her in her tracks. Her heart races. She turns around, and everything changes. There are moments in life when time doesn't just slow down, it completely stops. That morning at the barn was one of those moments. Amy's feet felt like they were planted in the earth. Her breath caught in her chest. The voice wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was soft, like a memory trying to break free from the past, but she knew that voice better than her own heartbeat. Ty. She didn't want to believe it. She couldn't believe it. But it was there, hanging in the cool air like fog that wouldn't lift. Her eyes scanned the open barn, but there was no one, just shadows, hay, and the sound of a horse shifting its weight in the next stall. She whispered his name as if saying it might unlock a secret hidden behind the silence. But no answer came. Amy didn't tell anyone what she heard. Not Jack, not Lou, not even Lyndy. How could she? They'd think it was grief all over again, like a wound that never fully healed. But the feeling stayed with her. That strange, quiet feeling that something was off. Or maybe, just maybe, something was right, in a way she couldn't yet understand. Over the next few days, the signs grew stronger. At first, it was the photo that fell. Then the voice. But then came the smell of Ty's cologne drifting through the living room for no reason. His old watch, which Amy had put away in a drawer, was suddenly on the kitchen table. She hadn't taken it out. No one had. She asked Jack, who just raised an eyebrow and told her to get more sleep. But she was sleeping. Or at least she thought. She was. Lyndy noticed it too. She was playing with her toy horses when she looked up and said, "Mommy, Daddy was in my dream again. He said you were close." Amy froze. She didn't press her daughter for more. Part of her didn't want to know. The other part was already drowning in questions she couldn't ask out loud. What does close mean? Close to finding the truth? Close to breaking down? Or close to something that changes everything? Amy found herself walking the ranch with a new awareness, listening more carefully, watching the tree line in the distance, checking the barn twice instead of once. Every creak of wood, every flap of the stable door made her heart jump in a way it hadn't since Ty died. But she wasn't scared. That was the strange part. She felt a strange calmness, like someone was trying to protect her, like someone was watching. Then came the letter. It arrived in the mailbox with no return address. The handwriting was familiar, but Amy couldn't place it. She opened it slowly, carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper yellowed around the edges. Only 5 words were written on it. "You were never wrong, Amy." That was it. No name, no explanation. But those words hit her like thunder, because Ty had said those exact words to her once, years ago, during an argument when she doubted herself, when she thought she couldn't fix a horse that had been through too much. He had looked at her with that quiet strength he always had and said, "You're not wrong, Amy. You were never wrong." It wasn't a common phrase, not something anyone else would know, and yet here it was again, in her hands, in his handwriting, or at least something very close to it. That night, Amy sat alone on the front porch. The stars stretched out above her like a silent witness. She held the letter in her hand, her fingers tracing the edges. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just sat there, feeling the weight of something she couldn't name pressing down on her chest. She wasn't imagining things. She knew it now. The past wasn't done with her, and Ty, whether in spirit, in memory, or in flesh, was trying to reach her. Somewhere deep in the night, as the wind moved gently through the trees and the horses rustled in their stalls, Amy whispered into the dark, "If you're out there, come back." And somewhere not far away a shadow moved. It wasn't a dream. Dreams don't leave footprints in the dirt. The morning after Amy whispered into the night, something changed. The air at Heartland felt different, still, heavy, almost waiting. Amy rose before the sun, unable to sleep. Her boots hit the porch steps like they always did, but the rhythm felt wrong. She didn't grab coffee. She didn't go to the stables. She followed something else, an instinct or maybe a memory disguised as a feeling. She walked toward the river trail, the one Ty used to take when he needed space to think. It had become overgrown since he passed. No one really went there anymore. Amy moved through the grass like she was stepping into a time capsule. The deeper she walked, the more the world around her began to feel unreal, like she was no longer in the present, but in between something old and something new. That's when she saw him. Just ahead, at the bend in the trail, stood a figure, still, facing away. Wearing a jacket that looked exactly like Ty's, faded brown with a tear near the left shoulder. Amy stopped breathing. Her hands went cold. Her mind screamed for logic, for an explanation. But her heart whispered only one thing. It's him. The man didn't move. Amy didn't call out. She took a step forward, then another. Leaves crunched softly under her boots. Her heartbeat was louder than her footsteps. Still, the figure remained, silent, unmoving. She was just a few feet away when he finally turned. And there he was. Ty, or someone who looked like him. Same eyes, same quiet intensity. But something was different. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just looked at her, with a kind of pain and peace twisted together. Amy's knees nearly gave out. Tears welled up, but she didn't blink. She was afraid if she looked away, he'd vanish again like a ghost. She whispered, "Is it really you?" His answer was just one word. Yes. No long explanation, no apology. Just that. Yes. And in that moment, time shattered. Years of grief, hope, questions, and guilt came crashing down into one impossible truth. Ty Borden, the man she buried in her heart, was standing right in front of her. Amy stepped closer, unable to hold back anymore. She reached out, half expecting her hand to pass through him. But it didn't. He was real, solid, warm, alive. She touched his face like it was the first time all over again. Her voice trembled. How? How are you here? We thought you were... He stopped her, gently placing a hand over hers. I know, he said. I know what they told you. The words didn't make sense. None of it did. Her mind spun with 1,000 questions. Was it a lie? A cover-up? Had he been taken, hidden, lost? Was he sick? Did he lose his memory? She didn't even know where to begin. But Ty didn't seem ready to answer. Instead, he looked past her toward the ranch. His voice dropped. I couldn't come back until now. Amy swallowed hard. Why now? He met her eyes. Because now, you're strong enough to hear the truth. That answer opened a door Amy hadn't even known existed. What truth, what had happened, what had been kept from her? And why had Ty been out there somewhere while she raised their daughter alone? He looked tired. Not just physically, but in his soul. Like he had carried something heavy for a long time. But even through the weariness there was love. The same love that brought him to Heartland all those years ago. The same love that helped him heal wild horses and broken hearts. The same love he had for her. Amy didn't ask more questions. Not yet. She simply stepped into his arms, holding him as if she could press the years apart and stitch them back together with her fingers. The sun rose behind them, casting long shadows on the path. Two people, long torn apart by fate, standing still in a world that refused to explain itself. For now, it didn't matter how. He was here. Back at the ranch, Lyndy sat on the porch, staring at the trail like she knew something had shifted. Her little hands gripped a drawing she made the night before. It showed a family of 3, Amy, Lyndy, and a man with brown hair and kind eyes. She looked up at the trees and smiled. Sometimes a miracle doesn't answer your questions. It asks more of them. Amy stood at the edge of everything she thought was true. Ty's return wasn't just a shock. It was a crack in the foundation of her entire world. The kind of moment that forces a person to look at their own memories and ask, was I ever really sure? Back at the ranch, she tried to hide the storm behind her eyes. Her family noticed. Lou, always practical, pressed for answers. Jack, who had seen more than most, didn't ask questions. He just watched her closely, like he already knew that something bigger was happening. But Amy said nothing. Not yet. She needed time. Ty had promised they would talk again soon. And she held on to that promise like a lifeline. But she also knew something else now. This wasn't just about love. It was about truth. And truth, she was learning, is rarely simple. In the days that followed, Amy began putting pieces together. She started with what she knew. Ty had died from a blood clot following a shooting. The funeral was real. The grief was real. The emptiness in Lyndy's eyes when she asked about her dad was real. So then, how could this be? Theories started spinning, some from Amy, some from fans of the show, and some that no one dared say out loud. Theory 1. Ty never actually died. A cover-up, a medical mistake. Someone, somewhere, changed the records. Maybe to protect him, maybe to protect her. It sounded wild, but not impossible, especially in a world where Heartland often walks the line between reality and fate. Theory 2. Ty was taken. By whom, no one knows. An off-the-grid medical retreat, witness protection, something darker. Maybe he was forced into hiding and only now found a way to return. If that's true, then his silence makes sense. Trauma has its own language, and Ty, who never used more words than he needed, was speaking through silence now. Theory 3. Ty died. But this isn't about the physical. Maybe this is spiritual. Maybe he returned as a vision, a guide, something in between the worlds. Heartland has always hinted at something deeper, how horses connect with emotions, how people find signs in nature. Could Ty's return be a message from beyond, meant to help Amy take the next step? And then there's the fourth theory. Thecto. One that no one wants to believe, but everyone secretly fears. Theory 4. Amy is imagining all of this. Not because she's broken, but because grief sometimes echoes so loudly, it creates illusions. Maybe this is her mind's way of holding on. Maybe she's healing in a way no one understands, but if that's true, what happens when she wakes up? Amy didn't have the answers, but she knew what she felt, and she had never been more certain of anything. Ty's presence was real, not just to her, but to Lyndy, to the horses, even to the land. The way the wind moved, the way the barn creaked at just the right moment, the way one of the wild colts, normally untouchable, walked calmly up to the fence when she whispered Ty's name. This was more than memory. This was real. And yet there was still no explanation. Ty hadn't returned to the house. He hadn't stepped back into family life. He hadn't held Lyndy yet. Amy wanted to ask him why, but every time she went back to the trail, he was gone, like smoke, like wind. But he always left something behind, a note, a flower, a drawing. Lyndy swore she didn't make. Clues, messages, warnings. Amy began writing it all down, a journal, not to explain it, but to understand it, because she knew something was coming, something bigger than her, bigger than all of them. She also knew that Ty had changed. There was something in his eyes, a weight, a sorrow, and a secret. One she hadn't asked him about yet, one she might not want to know, but she would. She had to, because this wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new one. And whatever truth waited on the other side, Amy was ready. For Ty, for Lyndy, for herself. And as the final scene of the episode fades out, Amy stands once more at the river trail, journal in hand, and whispers into the trees, "I'm not afraid." Somewhere, deep in the woods, a horse cries out, and in the shadows Ty watches, waiting for the right time.